I still remember the exact time, 7:48 p.m. The digital clock above the bus driver flickered as the old yellow school bus groaned down Maplewood Road. I was the last kid on board. That wasn't unusual. My house was always the final stop, sitting at the far edge of town where the streetlights blinked out and the forest began. But that night, something felt wrong. The sky was darker than it should have been. Not evening dark, empty dark. No stars, no moon, just a heavy black ceiling pressing down on the road. "Last stop," the driver muttered. His voice didn't sound like Mr. Jenkins. It was deeper, rough, like gravel scraping metal. I leaned forward. We passed my street. The driver didn't respond. The bus turned left onto a narrow road I had never seen before. The houses here were tall and thin, leaning toward each other like they were whispering secrets. None of them had lights on. My chest tightened. "Sir, this isn't Maplewood." He slowly turned his head. The bus lights flickered, and for a split second, I saw his face in the rearview mirror. It wasn't Mr. Jenkins. His eyes were too large. Completely black. No whites. No reflection. Just endless dark. I froze. The bus screeched to a stop. "We're here," he said. The doors hissed open. Outside was a small, two-story house painted a faded gray. The windows were broken. The front porch sagged. A single mailbox stood crooked at the end of a cracked walkway. On the mailbox was my name, Ethan Carter. My hands started shaking. "That's not my house." Silence. "Get off," the driver whispered. The bus lights went out. Every instinct screamed at me not to move, but I stepped down anyway. My feet hit the pavement, and the air felt colder than winter. The bus doors slammed shut behind me. I spun around. The bus was gone. Not driving away. Gone. The road stretched empty in both directions. No engine sound. No tire tracks. Nothing. My breath fogged in front of me as I turned back toward the house. The mailbox creaked slowly, swinging back and forth though there was no wind. Ethan Carter. That was my name. But this wasn't my address. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Battery. 27%. I swallowed hard and stepped onto the cracked walkway. Each step sounded too loud, like I was walking inside a hollow building. The porch steps groaned under my weight. The front door was slightly open, just an inch, like someone had been waiting for me. "I don't live here," I whispered. The door creaked wider. Inside, it was completely dark. Then, a light flicked on upstairs. Just one room. A soft yellow glow spilled down the hallway. I didn't want to go inside. But something pulled me forward. "Mom," I called weakly. No answer. I stepped over the threshold. The door slammed shut behind me. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I grabbed the handle and twisted. Locked. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. From upstairs, I heard something. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. Thud. Scrape. Thud. Scrape. "Hello." My voice cracked. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice floated down from the lit room. "Ethan, you're late." It was my mom's voice. Exactly her voice. But she was at home. Waiting for me. I ran toward the stairs. The wooden steps creaked as I climbed. The air smelled like dust and something rotten underneath. Halfway up, I noticed something strange. The walls were covered in photographs. All of me. Me at school. Me sleeping in my room. Me standing at the bus stop. Hundreds of pictures. Some were taken from outside my bedroom window. I stumbled backward. "That's not possible," I whispered. The footsteps started again, this time faster. Thud scrape. Thud scrape. From the lit room at the end of the hall. I forced myself to move forward. When I reached the hallway, the door to the glowing room was wide open. Inside sat a woman in a chair facing away from me. She had my mother's hair. My mother's sweater. Her hands rested calmly on the armrests. "Mom," I whispered. She slowly stood up. But when she turned around, her face wasn't finished. Her skin was smooth and blank where her eyes and mouth should have been. Like someone forgot to draw them. I screamed. She tilted her head unnaturally to the side. "You're not supposed to see that yet," she said. Her voice came from everywhere at once. The hallway lights burst, plunging everything into darkness. I ran. Down the stairs. Through the living room. Toward the front door. But the layout had changed. The stairs were longer now. The hallway stretched endlessly. Doors lined the walls that hadn't been there before. And from behind every door, I heard whispering. Ethan, stay. You live here. Hands began pushing out from under the doors. Pale fingers clawing at the air. I tripped and fell hard against the floor. My phone slid from my hand, lighting up the darkness for a brief second. Battery. 10%. In the glow of the screen, I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. There were more photographs on the walls. But these were different. They weren't of my past. They were of my future. One showed me sitting in that same chair upstairs. One showed me standing at the window, watching the bus arrive. One showed me driving the bus. With black, empty eyes. The whispering grew louder. You were always the last stop. You were always ours. I scrambled to my feet and ran blindly through the darkness. A door appeared in front of me. Not the front door. A small white door with peeling paint. I didn't hesitate. I opened it. Bright light flooded my vision. I stumbled forward, and landed hard on pavement. Car horns blared. I looked up. I was sitting in the middle of Maplewood Road. The normal Maplewood Road. Streetlights glowing. Houses familiar. My real house standing at the end of the block. The school bus driving away in the distance. I jumped up and looked around wildly. Everything was normal. My phone buzzed. Battery. 3%. A text message from Mom. Why did you get off the bus so early? You're not at our stop. My stomach dropped. I turned slowly toward where I had fallen. There was no gray house. No narrow road. Just an empty lot with a "for sale" sign. I stared at it, shaking. Then I noticed something carved into the wooden post of the sign. 4 words. Last stop. See you soon. The streetlight above me flickered. And far down the road, I saw the bus. It wasn't moving. It was just sitting there, waiting. And through the windshield, I saw the driver staring at me, smiling, with completely black eyes. The bus sat at the end of Maplewood Road, engine silent, headlights off, but I could feel it watching me. The driver's silhouette was still behind the wheel, smiling. My phone died in my hand. The screen went black, and when I looked up again, the bus was gone. Not driving away. Gone. I stood alone under the flickering streetlight, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I forced myself to breathe and ran home. Mom opened the door before I could knock. Why did you get off early? She asked, confused. I watched the bus pass our stop. I stared at her face. Normal eyes. Normal smile. Finished face. I thought I saw something, I stammered. She frowned but led me inside. That night, I didn't sleep. At 2:13 a.m., I heard it. A low engine rumbling outside my house. Slow. Idling. I froze in bed. My room faces the street. The curtains were slightly open. The engine sound stopped. Then came the hiss of bus doors opening. My blood turned cold. No. I forced myself not to look. The floorboards downstairs creaked. Mom's bedroom door opened. I heard her footsteps, walking toward the front door. Mom, I whispered. The front door opened. Silence. Then, Ethan, she called softly from downstairs. Her voice sounded wrong. Too calm. Too empty. Come here. You forgot your backpack on the bus. I didn't answer. My backpack was hanging on my chair. I stared at it. Every instinct screamed at me not to move. Ethan, her voice repeated. Closer now. At the bottom of the stairs. The house felt colder. The walls felt farther away. Then I heard something that made my heart stop. Another voice. My mom's voice. From inside her bedroom. Ethan, why are you awake? I sat up slowly. If Mom was upstairs, who was downstairs? The thing at the bottom of the stairs started climbing. Thud. Pause. Thud. Pause. Just like the dragging footsteps in the gray house. I grabbed my backpack and locked my bedroom door. The doorknob started turning immediately. Slowly. Patiently. Let me in, it whispered. The voice glitched, shifting between my mom's voice and the bus driver's gravelly tone. You missed your stop. I backed away from the door. The walls began to tremble. From outside my window, headlights flashed. Bright yellow. The bus was parked in front of my house. But it looked different now. Longer. Too long. Stretching down the entire street. The windows weren't reflecting light. They were dark. Filled with shapes. Children. Dozens of them. Sitting perfectly still. All facing forward. I recognized some of them. Kids who moved away. Kids who disappeared. Kids from news stories. Their eyes were black, just like the driver's. The doorknob stopped moving. Silence. Then, a loud bang. The door cracked. Another bang. Wood splintered. Last stop. The thing screamed. The windows of my room shattered inward. Cold air rushed in. The bus doors outside opened wider. The children's heads turned at the same time. Toward my window. Smiling. My real mom burst into the hallway. "Ethan, stay in your room," she shouted. The banging stopped instantly. Everything went quiet. Too quiet. The headlights shut off. The bus vanished. The presence behind my door disappeared. Mom forced the door open and pulled me into her arms. "There's no bus," she said, trembling. There was never a bus. But we both heard it. We both felt it. The next morning, things got worse. At school, no one remembered Mr. Jenkins, our usual bus driver. "Who?" the principal asked. "You mean Mr. Harper. He's been driving Route 12 for years." Mr. Harper. I had never heard that name before. I checked the school website. The bus driver photo was different. A thin man with gray hair and kind blue eyes. Not the tall man with black eyes. Not the one who smiled without blinking. When the final bell rang, I didn't want to go home. But I had no choice. I walked to the bus slowly. The number on the side read, 12. The doors folded open, and there he was, the black-eyed driver, smiling. "Running late again, Ethan." No one else reacted. The other students climbed on like everything was normal. I stepped back. "I'm not getting on." The driver's smile widened. "You already did." The doors slammed shut, and I was suddenly sitting in my usual seat. The bus was moving. The other kids stared forward, motionless. The windows showed nothing outside. No trees. No houses. Just endless darkness. The bus didn't stop at any houses. It just kept driving. And driving. Finally, it slowed. The doors hissed open. Outside was the gray house. Waiting. My name still on the mailbox. The driver turned toward me. Slowly. This time, I saw his full face clearly. Skin stretched too tight. Eyes like empty holes. And behind him, dozens of hands pressed against the inside of the windshield. Trying to get out. "You live here," he whispered. The children on the bus began chanting softly. "Last stop. Last stop. Last stop." I stood up slowly. "No," I said. The driver tilted his head. "You were chosen." The bus began to change around me. Seats melting into the floor. Windows sealing shut. The aisle stretching longer and longer. Like it wanted to trap me inside forever. I turned and ran toward the open doors. But instead of the street, there was only darkness. A deep, endless void. The driver's voice echoed behind me. "If you leave the bus, someone else takes your place." The chanting stopped. Complete silence. Then a small voice whispered from behind me. "Please don't." I turned. A little boy stood in the aisle, crying. His eyes were normal, not black. "I don't want to drive," he sobbed. My heart stopped. "Drive." The driver stood up from his seat. His body cracked and stretched unnaturally tall. "It's almost your shift," he said calmly. The steering wheel turned toward me on its own. The bus doors slammed shut, and the engine roared to life. The last thing I saw before the windows went black was the gray house disappearing behind us, and the road ahead forming out of pure darkness. Endless. Waiting. The engine roared beneath my feet. The steering wheel jerked violently and locked into my hands. "I don't want this," I shouted. The tall, broken version of the driver loomed over me, his limbs bending the wrong way, his black eyes swallowing what little light remained inside the bus. "You already accepted the ride," he said calmly. "Everyone does." The little boy in the aisle was crying harder now. "I missed my stop," he whispered. "That's all I did." The bus sped forward into complete darkness. There were no roads, only a thin strip of glowing pavement forming just ahead of us and vanishing behind. The children in the seats began to fade. Not disappear. Fade. Like they were being erased. The driver leaned closer to my ear. "Route 12 doesn't take children home," he said. "It takes them where they belong." The steering wheel burned in my grip. I tried to let go, but my hands wouldn't move. The speedometer climbed higher. 60, 61. 62. If you drive, the creature continued, you survive. And if I don't? I asked through clenched teeth. The little boy looked up at me. You become the house. My blood froze. The gray house. The broken windows. The waiting porch. The unfinished mother. That wasn't a place. It was what happened to the ones who refused. The bus suddenly lurched, and images flashed across the windshield like memories. Kids arguing with their parents. Kids wishing they could disappear. Kids who felt alone. Kids who thought no one would notice if they were gone. You weren't chosen randomly, the driver whispered. I remembered that afternoon. I had been angry. I had muttered under my breath at the bus stop. I don't even want to go home. The driver smiled wider. That was enough. The bus swerved violently. The glowing road split into two paths ahead. One side darker than the other. The darker path felt heavy. Cold. Hungry. The lighter path flickered weakly. Unstable. You must choose your final stop, the driver said. Drive. My hands tightened around the wheel. The children began chanting again. Last stop. Last stop. Last stop. The little boy grabbed my sleeve. If you go dark, he whispered, you replace him. I looked at the creature behind me. Its body was cracking, like porcelain ready to shatter. It wanted out. It wanted freedom. And it needed someone to take its place. The speedometer hit 120. The road ahead began collapsing. I closed my eyes for 1 second. Then I jerked the wheel toward the flickering light. The bus screamed. Metal twisted. The creature shrieked in a sound that didn't belong in this world. The darkness shattered like glass. Everything exploded into white. I woke up on Maplewood Road. Morning sunlight warmed my face. Birds chirped. Normal. Peaceful. The bus was parked in front of me. Number 12 painted on its side. The doors opened gently. A man stepped out. Gray hair. Kind blue eyes. Morning, he said with a friendly smile. You getting on? It was Mr. Harper, the driver from the school website. Normal. Human. I looked inside the bus. Just regular kids talking and laughing. No black eyes. No chanting. No endless darkness. My heart pounded. Was it over? I slowly stepped backward. I'll walk today, I said. He shrugged. Suit yourself. The doors closed. The bus drove away. I stood there shaking until it turned the corner and disappeared. For weeks, nothing happened. No engines at night. No gray house. No whispers. I started believing it was over. Until one evening, I was helping Mom bring groceries inside. A moving truck pulled into the empty lot down the street. The lot where the gray house had appeared. Workers unloaded furniture. Wood. Windows. Doors. I watched as they placed a mailbox near the sidewalk. Fresh wood. Clean paint. No name yet. Mom smiled. Looks like we're getting new neighbors. I couldn't breathe. That night, I couldn't sleep again. At exactly 7:48 p.m., I heard it. Very faint. Very far away. A bus engine. I looked out my window. Nothing there. But down the road, for just a split second, I saw headlights flicker, then disappear. The next morning, the new house stood fully built. Perfect. Ordinary. A welcome home mat on the porch. And on the mailbox, a name carved into the wood. Not mine. Someone else's. The bus had moved on. Route 12 was still running. Still waiting. For the next kid, who whispers they don't want to go home.